As I've chosen to focus on the educational part of landscape photography, after all I'm educated a teacher, I find it my responsibility to show you the entire process. From the initial idea, the theory of it, right through to the final image. It is one thing to sit in the studio and tell you how it ought to be done and then just slap some B-roll on top and then show you the final result photo. It's an entirely different thing to actually take you, bring you out with me into the field, show you the struggles, show you the thoughts, and show you that entire practice process of how to get the final photo. Even in seemingly simple situations. In our master local landscape photography course, Nigel Danson and myself show you how to research and find new locations without actually going out and doing the legwork. One example I show in the course is how I found this beautiful lone tree along a clean road. At the time of recording, I'd actually never visited that tree, but I think it's about time that I practice what I preach and I put my money where my mouth is and actually go out and photograph that tree. Besides its inherent beauty, this specific location stood out because of the angle of the scene. Here I could theoretically photograph both a beautiful sunrise during winter and the spring Milky Way. So that's exactly what I set out to do. 2 separate outings and 2 distinct photographic goals. So watch it with me here and let's see if theory and practice actually work together. Now at this time of year, it is exactly January 2nd, 8:35 a.m. The sun will rise in a few minutes behind the tree, so I'm hoping for a backlighting effect and maybe a sunstar. Now one thing that is actually super annoying that has happened overnight is that this specific area has got a little drizzle of snow. You can see there's no snow on the field here, but there is on this field right here. And when you get snow, I prefer to actually either have loads of it or none of it, because this here is just going to look a little bit messy when I'm going to take the photo in that direction. Hopefully it will not take up too much attention in the photo, but I would have preferred to have grass or greens on either side of the road. And now I have to, just accept that the snow here is as it is. Even though the scene is actually really simple, you'll see here just how many details you will have to take into consideration when composing the photo. The composition is actually really simple. As you can see, it's a very simple scene. Lone tree along the road, a decently good looking road. We don't have any kind of markings on it. We don't have signposts or anything like that. So a very clean road. We have a little bit of buildings here in the background and even like a forest right here. But I don't think it takes up too much of the composition at all. Once the sun rises around here, then that will take all the attention. And then I have the tree right there and the road like leading into the scene. How wide I'm going to shoot, I'm not entirely sure, but it will probably be a wide angle shot, so somewhere between 16 and 24, maybe 28 millimeter. Another aspect of the composition I need to take into consideration is that this tree, of course, have some branches right here. Generally, I would prefer if those branches don't hit the horizon line, so I can avoid that by going low. But when I go low, then the road will take up a lot of the foreground, and I don't really like that. I would probably prefer the road to be something more like this. I can also go out in the middle of the road and just have the road right there in the middle, which also looks good. Only problem is that then I offset the tree to the left and make the photo quite left heavy. With the sun coming up here, all the interest will be on the left side of the photo, which will unbalance it. And I don't like that either. So I will have to make sure that the road comes in somewhat from the left and goes into the scene like this. Actually think right here that probably works pretty good in this height. Although again, the branches right here hits the horizon. The last aspect of the photo is also how much of the road I want to include, how much foreground do I want, and how much sky do I want. As I'm standing right here, I do not have an answer exactly to that. I'm going to try a little bit of everything once the sun actually comes up, which will be in a few minutes. And then I will simply just try something with a lot of foreground and something with less foreground, more sky, less sky, and then I will also try different focal lengths. And of course, once the sun actually rises, you will see how the light it throws into the scene is something I also have to take into consideration in my decision making. And if you struggle with composing photos, be sure to get my ebooks on that topic. In my composition ebooks, I cover a whole range of compositional tools, not rules, as I like to call them. It's like tools in your toolbox you can use and apply to a scene to get a certain look or feel or help tell the story. With minimal text and tons of examples, the ebooks are easy to read. There are links to both of them down in the description of the video. But let's see how it works out now that the sun starts to rise. And here comes the sun, rising straight up into the only cloud I can see 360 degrees around me. Typical. I think it'll be fine. The cloud is very small, just by the horizon. So the sun just needs to come a little bit further up, which I can see it's doing now. And then I should be able to capture a nice sun star. It's getting very blinding very fast, so it's actually not easy to see the composition. I think I'm just going to shoot as wide as I can here at 16 millimeter, and then I can always crop afterwards if I prefer to have more of the sky or more of the road, the foreground. So I have to move a little bit further back already. The sun is coming up so fast, and already now I've kind of like lost my main composition. Just have the sun coming out from behind the tree there. Looks very nice. There we go. Okay, so I'll just try and capture the sun star just there in the middle of the tree. It kind of have two branches that comes out. I think that looks pretty cool. Like when you get that direct light, it just suddenly just completely changes the scene and the dynamics and the balance of it, because the road starts getting hit by light right now, and the field over here on the left also, and the field on the right. And it's all about like where the light hits is probably also where you're going to get that extra attention. It's also very much about like trying to control that sun star, because now that the sun has come up, it takes up so much attention if I don't like half cover it with the tree. And after all, the tree is still my subject. It is still the main character of the scene. And that sun star is only there to like give the scene that little bit of like an extra spice. Basically just so you get that like, I see what you did there feeling. Let's see here. I'm actually a little bit closer to the tree than I thought I would. Maybe if I waited like a couple of weeks, the sun would have risen a little bit further to the left. And in that regard, the sun will come behind the tree when I get this close to it. Right now, it's actually on the wrong side of the tree. I have too much road in there. It is just exceptionally hard when you're in the field to find that optimal composition. And that's why I again and again and again say in my videos that I just try to get a lot of different versions of more or less the same composition. So I come home with maybe 15 different versions of this tree, if not more. And then I decide back home, where I can actually see what I'm looking at, which one of the photos that I like the best. But right now I just go with the flow and simply just take the decisions dependent on what I think I like. So yeah, that's how I work. how I wish that snow wasn't there, and I wish I could have a tiny bit more separation between the tree and the fields. There's so many ifs and buts, but I do think I could have benefited a bit from having waited a couple of weeks so that the sun would have risen a bit further to the left. Gotta give it another go next year. So, in about 2.5 months, just behind me here at the end of the road, the Milky Way core will rise, and then I should be able to capture a photo where I have the road leading in to the Milky Way and then have the Milky Way like arching above the tree, if everything goes to plan. Now, I will have to wait a bit to be able to take that, but you guys should be able to get it instantly right here. So due to the phase of the moon, the weather, and simply just that I have a very narrow window where I can get that Milky Way because of the seasons, as it's turning out, I only have one shot to get that shot of the Milky Way at the end of the road with the tree in front. It's 1:39 in the morning, and let's just cross my fingers that it will be worth it. Even though the forecast had been pretty good leading up to this night, a sudden shift suddenly showed clouds, and if there is one thing that can ruin a Milky Way photo, it's clouds. So I have arrived at the tree, but sadly those clouds are here, and there may be a slight chance that they will move away from what I can see on the satellite, the radar data, and just like looking out, it does look as if they will blow over. What has happened is that I can see there are a decent amount of light along the horizon, which can be quite obnoxious. I know I'm photographing directly towards Aarhus, which is the second largest city in Denmark, but there are also like some lights from some farms, and I'm not sure how much they are going to interrupt the final photo. Obviously, the only thing I can do right now is simply just to wait. I still have an hour and 15 minutes ish until we start moving into the blue hour. So hopefully those clouds will move away, and I'll just get, I need like 5-10 minutes of clear skies, and then hopefully I can get the shot. I luckily got my local clearing and had about half an hour to get the photos. I brought both my Sony a7R5 with the Sony 14mm f1.8 and the Sony a7C with the newly released Sony 16mm f1.8, and I managed to get a few different compositions. Having learned from my first visit, I knew I needed a bit lower perspective to get the desired separation between the tree and the horizon, which worked out great. However, I did still have clouds behind the tree, and the light pollution was quite severe because of it. It helps the tree to stand out against the sky, but I would have wished that more of the Milky Way was visible. I do like the photo, however, I think it would be worth it to give it another go next year, and hopefully with less clouds. After all, with less clouds, the light pollution also ought to be less strong. Be sure to get me a Nigel's course Mastering Local Landscape Photography if you want to learn all our techniques for getting amazing local photos and see how we work them in practice. We cover how to find interesting local locations, how to benefit from the conditions, what strategies we use, what apps and services we use, how we react to it all, and of course we cover both how to shoot in the field and how to edit the photos we capture for both beginners and experienced users. On top of that, we also show how to print, and we further discuss composition. There is so much to dig into. You can get the course via the link down in the description of the video. And if you want to see a free and obviously shorter YouTube video where I break down 7 steps to take amazing local landscape photos, check it out right here. I do share so much information for photographers who prefer to stay local. And then you can always up with the course afterwards. But check it out here.